Hello everyone and welcome back to Coaster Extra, where today we are going to be starting a new series on this channel, which is very exciting. It's going to be a Planet Coaster Seaside Park, where you can see that I've already got started on a wooden coaster. Obviously this footage is sped up and I'm recording a voiceover right now. Otherwise this video would be about 2 or 3 hours long. So we're gonna just swiftly move on from that. And you can see I've already made some firm progress on this wooden coaster. You can see I've made the drop. That's about 90 to 100 foot tall. It goes over a small airtime hill, a little turnaround, and then a few airtime hills. Now, so this is a park by the sea, as you can see, and quite a lot of famous seaside parks in almost history have a classic wooden coaster, so that's what I've tried to replicate here. Anyway, you can see that I've just built this turnaround, and I quickly realised it goes through this way too fast, and the laterals would be ridiculous. So I decide to bank it and make the turn slightly wider, and then continue going. And it actually travels through some of these hills with quite considerable speed. So this would be an airtime machine, which is interesting. Anyway, you go through another turnaround here, and then there are a few more hills that I built to the finish line. Oh yeah, I just remembered, I made these hills way too huge, and it crawls through them. You can see even on the time lapse that's too slow. So I make those a lot smaller, sorry. It does a double diamond and a few more little hills. And then I build out the brake run from the station, as you can see. And this is kind of an error on my part, but I thought, it kind of represents the inaccuracies that they wouldn't have had computer-aided design and stuff in those days. Anyway, I just turned down the friction slightly so that it's slightly faster, and I turned the mode to block sections so that I can add another train to increase capacity. Anyway, you can see me changing the colours here, and I was thinking of making it white, but then I kind of went for a more classic wooden colour and decided to change the sort of colour of the track itself. So I extend out the path here, and you can see I didn't mention, but I have already made the entrance and everything. I thought that would just be a bit boring to do on camera. So I've made the entrance already and started the path work. Anyway, you can see me building out the queue line here. Not a huge queue line, but a bit of cattle pen. Anyway, it curves round into the entrance. I forget that railings are off, and I just add some more in there because I really do not want to make custom railings yet. Anyway, I'm now beginning to build up the station for this coaster, and I tried to kind of keep it quite authentic, wooden, to fit with the theme. An old station to fit with the old ride. You can see that the trains that are on this ride here aren't the more advanced wooden coaster trains. They are the bare bones, basic wooden trains. Anyway, I've gone for a quite open style of this station by adding some pillars and then a trim around the top, where I will then add my roof. You can see that I opt for quite a slow slant at the start, and then it actually curves up to be quite steep, making this nice pointed design, which I quite like actually. I do think this station is actually a pretty nice station. Anyway, I use the freeform pillars to create a sort of cross section, and then duplicate that across to the other side. And then I just choose to change the colour of the railing because I wanted to, and now you have a POV. So there was that POV then. I really hope you enjoyed it because I think that was actually quite a nice wooden coaster that I whipped up in quite a short time. Yeah, it's got some great airtime, it seems like it's got a very long layout. So yeah, I think that's a very nice wooden coaster and a great backdrop to the park. Anyway, you can see here that I'm just adding a Ferris wheel right in the middle, and I had some trouble deciding what colour to make this. I wanted something that would kind of stand out, but not look too kind of garish colours and bright, you know. So yeah, I opted for an almost blue colour, and yeah, then I just complete the path around and build in the queue line, which I, again, make quite a sort of cattle pen queue line, which I kind of just have to do to conserve space, because if you don't know, I've got a limited plot of land for this build. I do decide to use the grid to actually straighten it up, just so that it looks slightly nicer. And then I begin to experiment with entrances, which is a very painful process because I spend some time looking through trying to find one, nothing fits, so I end up making my own, which you'll just see now. So I look and see if there's a ride sign, there's nothing, so I'm literally just going off nothing here, and I start to build this sort of wooden entrance. You can see I'm still going through all these entrances, and now I've finally started to settle on the design that I end up using, which is this sort of cross-pillar wooden design to fit with the sort of retro feel of the park near it. And then I choose this scroll for the ride entrance sign and change the font to a font that I don't think I've ever used in Planet Coaster, but somehow I've managed to make it fit here, and I opt for a blue and gold scroll design here. You can see that the Ferris wheel is actually like perfectly centered in the middle of the park, which is quite nice. And you can see here that I'm just adding in some signs to point people around to the entrance, obviously because that is the exit there. So yeah, just pointing people to the entrance so that everyone who walks into the park doesn't go, oh, I'll go through the entrance. Oh, I've been hit by the Ferris wheel. No, so yeah, I direct them around to the entrance. And now I begin to work on the next section of the park, where I basically build a giant straight path and then have the absolute genius idea of putting a stall under that little airtime hill because it fits perfectly. And I decided to make it a chip shop, which I just kind of named Fish and Chips because what's a seaside park without fish and chips? You know, that's a kind of fundamental element, especially if this is set in Britain, which it kind of is. And now I go through another one of these processes where I have a hard time choosing something because none of the roofs fit until I just kind of make the grid height smaller and change the colour to fit. So yeah, it ends up looking like quite a small boxy building, but you know, I add some text which is obviously going to say fish and chips, which I have to move around a lot to get it to fit nicely. But it ends up looking quite nice and it stands out, and you know, imagine that you're queuing up and instead of having nothing to look at, you get a coaster going over your head. So, you know, it's a win-win. And then I just kind of add some signs outside of it. I add a little swing sign and also a big Monsieur Fruit sign. So yeah, I think that building came along quite nicely. Yeah, it's a small box, but it's under a wooden coaster, it's pretty nice. And what's a seaside park without fish and chips? Anyway, it took me so long to build that for some reason. Anyway, moving on. I decided, yeah, there's fish and chips, probably should be some toilets. So, you know, I added those in, going for the same sort of building style, again, underneath the wooden coaster, just to sort of add it into a place which would be more enclosed away. And I add these tiny archways, which the people kind of just walk through the walls on either side, but it looks nice, so I kept it. And then I add up these walls with the slopes, and then choose to add a nice pillar design, which I'm quite happy with. I tried to move this over to the other side so I don't have to build it all again, but for some reason it didn't want to work, so I had to build it up, and basically the screen is just filled with wooden blocks at the moment. Anyway, we're back out, and wooden pillars are going around the side of this building with some nice connection pillars, which are a different colour, I know, but I think it contrasts nicely and looks quite fresh and nice. You know, almost like a sort of modern twist on an old building, you know, like it's been repainted. So yeah, I quite like that. and you can see I just add in that final few pillars here. So yeah, I ended up quite liking how these came out. You know, I added the few signs and tried to experiment with those, and you know, I kind of just decided to leave them because as much as it doesn't look great and the people walk straight through them, you know, it's fine. I decided to try and make that plot for a coaster and realised very quickly that that is way too small. So yeah, I kind of experimented with flat rides to put in here and decided on the Rocktopus. And I have no idea what this flat ride is called in real life, so if you know, I would love to hear in the comment section below. Anyway, I add a little foundation for it and then begin to just build up. It's cute. Again, it's quite cattle penny, but we have empty space. Might as well add something in. But yeah, the reason I quite like this is because there's an octopus on it, and as much as I have somehow managed to forget mentioning this, this park is named OCTOPARK. You know, in the titles I'll probably just name it Seaside Park because it's more obvious to new viewers. But yeah, I have named this park OCTOPARK because, you know, it's like an octopus and I quite like it. That doesn't mean there's only going to be 8 rides, so don't expect that, but it's a nice name, okay, and I think I quite like it. Anyway, I decided to make this the plot for my new ride, and I opt for a spinning coaster before quickly realising that's still a way too small plot of land and expanding it slightly. I just went up to check that I'm not using too much space on a small family coaster, and I wasn't, so I was fine. And then I started building the lift hill, realising I've made the worst placement of this. So I move it around, make a sharp turn out of the station, which, because it's a spinning coaster, it kind of banks into it, which is alright. If that was on a real coaster, the laterals would be quite high. But it's spinning, it's fine. Anyway, I just went and checked on my octopus ride, because I had no idea what it did, and it looked good. It makes bubbles, so... bubbles. Anyway, it banks round into this little turnaround section before I quickly realised that this is a way too high turnaround section and it is barely making it through this, and especially being next to a sea, because it's a seaside park, there are usually quite high winds near the sea, so I thought instead of having the risk of this valley, which obviously it wouldn't in Plant Coaster, but I'm trying to keep this quite realistic, you know, I just decided to lower it, which you'll see in a minute. I'm smoothing out this little element because somehow I made it so smooth. Yeah, there you go. You can see me dragging it down and it doesn't go quite so slowly through it. Anyway, I will show you the POV of this very shortly, but first I change it to do 2 laps and then decide on the colour scheme of this coaster. And as much as this is quite a weird colour scheme, I think it kind of fits the seaside park. It sort of stands out. It almost looks like a ride they've just bought from a travelling fair and ended up keeping it. But I quite like that. Anyway, I forgot to mention, I actually need names for the wooden coaster and for this coaster. I have not named them yet. I will be naming them in the next episode with a shout out from whoever the winning comment is, which I'll pick for each of them. If there are no comments, I guess I will just name it myself before the next episode. But, you know, I would love it if you would get involved and make yourself a part of this series. Anyway, you can see I'm building in the queue line, and this is the first queue line that's not actually a cattle pen. You go up, do a bridge over the coaster, come down, and then come round and down into the path. Anyway, I forgot to build the entrance for this, but here's the POV. Well, there's that POV. I really hope you enjoyed it, and as it does its second lap, I'll just say my outro. So thank you so much for watching this video. I'd really appreciate if you could leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. You will be seeing more episodes of this, typically weekly. There may be a short break while I go on holiday, but yeah, probably weekly episodes. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to leave names in the comments for these two coasters. Thank you for watching and goodbye.